Hello and welcome to Smash JT. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the top 5 worst video game publishers of all time. To make this list, I needed to go through a lot of really crappy companies and select the few that made the most amount of worst games. Now, even some of these companies made some okay games, but the vast majority of the games they published were awful. So we're going to take a look at those. Not going to include companies like Sega or EA or trendy names like that because we all know they've made a lot of good games over the years in addition to their terrible games. So this list is just going over those publishers that made the vast majority of terrible games. So let's get started. We're going to start number 5 on our list is High Tech Expressions. First thing we're going to do is listen to the music and how awful it is. Oh my god. And this Rollerblade Racer is basically just a paperboard ripoff with terrible controls and graphics. Ugh. They also made Win, Lose, or Draw. Granted, this game was made for IBM, but it was still terrible at the time. The graphics were 4 different colors. You couldn't even draw in it. It was a computer drawing and you had to guess what was drawn. It wasn't very fun. Moving on to Beethoven's Second. So bad. Rescue Chubby. Okay, look at these graphics. Yay, I'm a dog walking along. Let me bark at this cat. Bark, bark. Get away, cat. This is so boring. I don't know how people would justify purchasing these games. Ugh. Now, these are all pretty entertaining, terrible games. I ask myself sometimes why I even have them or bother playing them. I guess I'm just a glutton for punishment. Let's try this one. Okay, so Barbie Supermodel for the Super Nintendo. The music isn't half bad, so I do have to give it that. Storyline is her sitting in a coffee shop, dreaming about driving a car, and then she suddenly drifts away into driving a car. Now, you gotta look out for terrible drivers, and you go back and forth in 2 lanes. Not a lot of depth to this. Eventually, you get to the minigame where you have to dress Barbie like the magazine. I can only imagine the developers working on this game, questioning their lives and how they got to this point. Eventually, when you finally finish matching Barbie up with the right clothes, you get the bonus, and then you move back to driving the car. Back and forth lanes. When you finally finish that level, you move on to the next one where you start rollerblading in the sand, doing the same thing. And look out, we have an incoming pile of turd for the MS-DOS, Mega Man 3. I don't know what the hell Capcom was thinking allowing High Tech to publish this game. So it starts out, the graphics are atrocious, the controls are even worse, but at least Mega Man blinks every once in a while. If you can manage to navigate the keyboard controller far enough, you'll eventually run into some enemies. Combat is near impossible in this game, trying to time your jumps when it's so sluggish. Notice there's not even music in this game, just sound effects, although I look at that as a benefit. Next is number 4 on our list of worst game publishers ever, GameTech. GameTech is best known for such classics as Double Dare, The Price is Right, and American Gladiators. I could just imagine the CEO of GameTech talking to his boardroom. Hey guys, we need to sign a deal with these TV companies. Since we all know we suck at making games, we should move into a space where no one's making any games. Look, word of advice. If there's no companies in a space making games, there's a good reason for that. And if you are the only company in a certain space making games, then put your best foot forward and make them good. I mean, look at these. Do you want sound? No, the sound is terrible. Look at the color palettes. Neon green? Bright yellow? What is this, The Simpsons? How do you even play The Price is Right on a computer game? Show a toaster, but it's not a brand name, so you just guess a random price of a toaster and whatever developer says the price is? Also wanted to give them a little credit for the title screen of American Gladiators for the Super Nintendo. You know, when the 32X came out, I thought, you couldn't go wrong. This thing is next generation. It's going to have everything awesome. And then Brutal, Above the Claw for it comes out, and I'm like, this is going to be great. Nope. Well, it starts out rad enough. Look at that guy. He's cool. He's hip. Now notice that this game came out in 1995, which is a full 4 years after Street Fighter II. And look at these graphics. It's awful. The controls are so sluggish. What? What the hell was that? Number 3 on our list for all-time worst publishers is Philips Interactive. Now, Philips Interactive is best known for the Philips CDI, where they were developers and publishers for almost all of their games. They're best known for wrecking the Mario franchise with Hotel Mario, and wrecking the Zelda franchise with the 3 CDI exclusive Zelda games, among these other terrible, not-so-classics. Now granted, it was hard enough to develop for a console that used a DVD remote as the actual physical game controller. But even still, these games were non-responsive and did not look good at all. The developers working on these games are probably questioning their sanity. These games are just zany and off the wall. You're riding a roller coaster into a bus, throwing axes at skeletons, listening to Einstein tell you how to play Connect 4? I mean, I gotta give them credit, at least they tried. Yes, and we come to number 2 on the list, Toy Headquarters, the second worst publisher ever. The first game we're gonna look at is well known for being terrible. It's Waldo on the NES. The graphics were so bad, you had to pick out where Waldo was hiding in these places. Just look at these images, it's just awful. Where is he here? It's bad enough that the developers would know that this is not a good game, but then to come out and publish it? Come on now. Next thing I'm going to look at is Home Alone 2 Lost in New York for the NES. This game was so bad. I feel bad for Tom Hite. What a great way to honor someone by remembering them in one of the worst games in history. Now after pressing start, the game forces you into its really slow and drawn out storyline. I'm gonna just skip ahead. It goes on for about 5 minutes and you can't skip it. It's awful. So here you are, Kevin McAllister, and you're dodging suitcases in the hallway of a hotel. Definitely didn't happen in the movie, but I guess they had to come up with whatever they could to make a game out of Home Alone. Moving on to Quest 64, this game I actually had a lot of hope and excitement for, even coming from THQ. One, because I bought a Nintendo 64 right when it came out and really liked role-playing games, so I was really into the idea of, oh my god, we're gonna have a full-blown 3D role-playing game for the Nintendo 64. This game shot all my hopes and expectations right down the drain. The battle system was convoluted, a lot of waiting and then getting your ass kicked by these little bunnies. You fight these bunnies a lot, you have to wait. Now you're close enough to finally slap him with your stick, and then he punches you back and you slap him, and you do this for the next 10 minutes until you beat it. Number 1 on our list is LJN, and if you didn't see this coming, you don't know video games. I'm holding in my hands the holy trilogy of Let's start with Who Framed Roger Rabbit. This game made absolutely no sense. They were trying their best to make a storyline out of the movie. Hey, maybe Grand Theft Auto was inspired by just punching guys on the street. Anyway, you just go around, you walk around into other buildings, and you search drawers. It's extremely painful to play through. Next up is Back to the Future 2 and 3, which is somehow worse than the first Back to the Future game they made. And I think they knew it was going to be bad because they just merged the second and third one together. They were like, screw it, let's just make it one game. So the storyline is they lost the almanac, Biff has to get it back, now go get it! Okay. Now we show up in this green area and this looks nothing like what I remember the movie being. Let's go into that, and you go into the restaurant and it's a bonus room. I never noticed this before, but apparently the platforms spell out free lives. Strange. And then finally we get to the classic Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This game is so well known for being the worst game on the NES. Not really a distinguishment any company would want under their name, but the way this game plays, it's almost like they were trying to have it be the worst game ever. There's not too much more I can say about it beyond what AVGN did in his video, but suffice it to say I agree with him. It's terrible. The controls are broken, the gameplay makes no sense, there's way too many enemies to dodge, the life meter doesn't even make sense. It's such an awful game. I could fill a 4-hour video with just how many bad LJN games there really are, but I'll just leave it at these 3. That's enough pain for today. And that concludes our list for the top 5 worst publishers in history. If you guys disagree with any of them, please let me know in the comments section. Also, I'm always looking for ideas for new videos, so please let me know any games you want me to review or talk about. And go ahead and click subscribe and like if you haven't already. Thanks a lot.
Está.